The part 2 of the Class 7th NCERT Social Science textbook titled Exploring Society, India and Beyond includes a chapter called India, a Home to Many, under a theme called Our Culture, Heritage, Knowledge and Traditions. The chapter emphasizes that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is one family, is not just a slogan but a guiding practice in India for millennia. It shows how India, over the centuries, has been a safe haven for people who were oppressed or persecuted in their own countries because of their religious beliefs and faith. The textbook highlighted communities that moved to India to escape religious persecution. The textbook was released later last week. The communities mentioned in the textbook include the Parsis, Bene Jews, Syrian Christians, Baha'i community, and the Tibetan refugees, among others. It also mentions groups who initially came for trade, such as the Armenians and the Arab merchant. The chapter explains that the Arab merchant arrived from the 7th century onwards and settled along the west coast in Kerala, Gujarat, and Karnataka. They were peaceful traders and not conquerors. They brought new ideas, culture, religion, and played an important role in India's history of trade and culture exchange. Meanwhile, in another chapter, the textbook also discusses the Arab invasion of Sindh led by Muhammad bin Qasim, an Arab military commander sent by the governor of Iraq. The book notes that while religious persecution existed elsewhere, India's long-standing culture of peaceful coexistence allowed different communities to thrive. The book states that this innate character of its people and culture has created a heaven for the persecuted. The chapter further observed that in some cases, those who came intending to conquer India were instead influenced by its diverse culture, rich philosophy, knowledge, tradition, geography, climate, and thriving economy. It states that the Parsis, followers of Zoroastrianism, fled Persia after the Islamic conquest in the 7th century CE. They faced forced conversions, religious taxes, destruction of sacred fire temples, and social marginalization. Unable to freely practice their faith, groups of Zoroastrians sailed across Arabian Sea and settled on India's western coast in present-day Gujarat between 8th and 10th centuries. The book also mentions deep connection between Zoroastrian philosophy and India's ancient Vedic school of thought. The textbook further explains the Tibetan community in detail. It states that from 1950 onwards, the People's Republic of China overran Tibet. The 14th Dalai Lama was granted asylum in India. It states that the Indian government rehabilitated the Tibetan refugees, provided education to their children, and facilitated the creation of Tibetan settlements to enable this community to make India a second home and preserve and promote its language, culture, and heritage. It also mentions the Baha'i community, who fled Iran in 19th century after being branded as heretics and treated badly. Besides, the book highlighted the Syrian Christian community, which was persecuted in West Asia from the 4th century due to their beliefs and suspicion of aiding enemies. They migrated to India and settled on the Malabar coast, which is present-day Kerala, where they could freely practice their faith. NCERT Director Dinesh Prasad Saklani said that the chapter highlights how migrants historically assimilated, contributed, and were respected in India. He denied any connection to the contemporary CEA debate, noting it reflected historical events and not the current policies. In another chapter, the book has a detailed section on historical invasion, including the Ghaznavid invasion led by Mahmud of Ghazni. The new textbook provides a larger focus on Mahmud's campaign, describing his destruction and plunder, and his eagerness to spread his version of Islam to non-Muslim parts of the world. The book has a cautionary box precedes to this section. It explained that the history has often recorded wars, conquest, and destruction more than peace or creativity. It also states that NCERT's approach is that it is better to face them and analyze them to understand what made such development possible and hopefully help avoid their recurrence in the future. The book also said that while the past event cannot be erased, it would be wrong to hold anyone responsible for them today. The textbook details Mahmud's 17 campaigns in India, including plundering temples in Mathura, Kannauj, and the Somnatha Shiva temple in Somnath, Gujarat. It also described the slaughter of tens of thousands of civilians, the capture of prisoners, including children, and enslavement of many. Mahmud is depicted as a powerful but ruthless general. His intent on spreading his version of Islam destroying or converting infidels, which includes Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains. It also covers Muhammad Ghori, his general Qutbuddin Aibak, and commander Bakhtiyar Khilji, including Khilji's attack on eastern India. Notably, the book also describes the destruction of Nalanda and Vikramshila universities, noting that the library at Nalanda burned for months. Finally, this chapter in the book also highlights that despite invasions, large part of North and South India remain outside foreign controls. It said that native rulers occasionally united against invader and they preserved India's culture, knowledge, tradition and social fabrics. That's all from me for now. Keep watching The Print for more news updates.